let's go. Then, why are we here on this session? This is the first thing that we need to understand. Okay, the topic is software, dangers that come with software, and the controls that we could have in place to mitigate this. But why are we here? What are the dangers, right? So we're here, and I'm going to show you guys two main reasons why we're here right now. So first of all, we have this particular ecosystem that I will present to you. So a CVE, a common vulnerability, gets disclosed. Then what happens on the dark web? People start illegal scanning for, and let me put a pointer so that we can see this. People start scanning systems for vulnerabilities, and it's illegal to do that, but they do it. Not all of organizations are covered and secured against the scanning. Then cybercrime chatter starts. POC, proof of concept exploit code, is offered on the dark web, and this is a danger point, right? But we're going to continue through the scheme, and then we're going to come back to the danger points. Then access is gained via the exploitation. Well-performing vulnerabilities are used in ransomware or malware code to make sure that this will end they will deliver the blow. Then they don't actually attack you. They go back and they sell or advertise on chat forums and marketplaces. Advertisements are done by initial access brokers. This is another danger point. They sell this outside so that somebody else can attack you. Then people that buy that access do the breach. They come into your network, and after this, they get their access over here. They do escalation privileges, they do lateral movement discovery collection, exfiltration, which is another dangerous point, because now data from your organization about your systems, your vulnerabilities, your credentials, everything that they can get their hands on is now sold on the dark web again through initial access brokers. This is a bigger process. Some of you might have heard about it in the previous webinar, right? So then another CVE gets disclosed, right? And then it starts again. So this is a big problem. Now, I mentioned two danger points. POC code exploit offered. This basically means, guys, in simple terms, that people that managed to do this, right, managed to leverage the exploit and made the proper malware code on it, are now putting it online. And any wannabe hacker can get this, go on a botnet, buy their botnet membership for $50 per month, and send it through the botnet, right? So this is a danger point. And the other maximum danger point is this initial access brokers, because these guys basically sell as a business access to spaces, to companies through domain admin rights or VPN accounts. And just this example that you see on the page, you might have seen it in previous webinars. This is an example of access to a company that is having a revenue of I believe 300 million. Yeah, 300 million. And they are giving domain admin rights. And the second reason we are here today is due to this squiggly line, but this doesn't match the photo itself. So let's switch the photos. So this squiggly line is basically a line showing since the first moment that common vulnerability entries, CVEs, were listed online until almost today, right? This is close to today. But the problem is that these vulnerabilities carry risk for us in our organization. So that's why we're talking today about the danger of software and what do we need to have internally so that we can control this. Now that we have established why we are here, right, and that you guys were so patient with me and my recovering of the presentation, now let's go into a short introduction of the session itself. So as an agenda, we will be covering the following points: hidden dangers of software, 5 essential controls that I personally recommend to you guys so that you can mitigate this particular risk, a little bit of deep dive into each control, and conclusion and Q&A, right? And a bit of housekeeping. Questions are welcomed along the way. I do prefer you guys ask questions along the way. Most active participants can win a Heimdal Home Premium license. You need to do the post-webinar survey for that. I'm going to introduce to you a new cyber trivia game so that we don't get bored with the regular ones. Then if you want to talk some more, if you want to book a session with me, a 15-minute chat or even a demo in the post-webinar survey is the place that you need to go. Now, since this is a public webinar and I see a lot of people that I do not recognize, so let's do just one moment on who's Heimdal and who am I and why am I speaking to you today. So basically, guys, Heimdal is, and I'll keep this short, I promise we'll get to the actual topic of the day. So Heimdal is a Danish cybersecurity vendor, currently servicing over 2.5 million endpoints across 15,000 B2B customers across the globe. We have numerous awards, great reviews from peers that are using the product. And what you're seeing in the middle of the screen is the graphical user interface from our threat hunting and action center tool. Then let's take a bit of the clutter out so that we can see the slide clearly. Then in this offering, Heimdal is literally the most robust cybersecurity XDR that is available in the market right now. And if we tie all of this together with our MXDR service, now you have super powered all-in-one, one dashboard, one agent, and one team that is handling this for you. Now, with that being said, who am I and what makes me eligible to speak to you today? My name is Andrei. I've been with Heimdal for 5 years, and I have a bit north of 5,000 plus cybersecurity meetings. Good. So now we know why we're here. We know who's the company that's sponsoring this webinar, and we know who's the speaker that's stressing you guys out today. Let me grab a sip of coffee and let's start the discussion for today. By the way, any questions again are more than welcome. Whenever you guys ask a question, I get the chance to take a sip of water. Okay, guys, so we talked about that initial access broker, right? And this is important because this is becoming more and more dangerous year by year. So what I want to show you guys, and I believe that the title of my chart is a bit off. So I want to show you guys activity of initial access brokers 2021 versus 2022. So if we consider 2021 as the segment of 100%, right? No matter how much was this activity. Now, this is the time where I need your help. What do you consider 2022 was compared to 2021? And I'm curious to see, was it bigger? Was it smaller? Let's see what your opinion is. We have people coming in with bigger, increase of 40%. The person that gets closest to the increase will win a Heimdal Security Home license. Okay, we have 30, 200, 70, 67, 150, 37, 34, 80% increase, 10% increase. And guys, let me help you. So we're talking about increase, right? So 150 is the winner, it's closest. So the increase was with 112%. This means double and something. And these initial access brokers, guys, are selling literally access to people's companies. So in the day, you had one group attacking and leveraging a lot of tools until they finish their attack. Now, this is literally a business environment. It's no longer how we've seen it in the past. So it's very, very important to know that this exists and to protect ourselves as much as possible. Now, if we look by month, these are the first 3 months of the year of 2021, right? 2022, I apologize. Then if we look at the next months, again, very low activity. But this is what happened since June. And these are advertisements on the dark web, like the one you saw in that image, right? Access to a 300 million revenue company from Mauritius. Now, these promotions, these advertisements on the dark web even got close to 400 accesses per month sometimes, right? So this is huge. This is advertising. Okay. And we have a question from the audience. What is the explanation for this increase at the moment? So the explanation for this increase is super, super easy. Cybersecurity, cyber attacks, cybercrime has been migrating from just doing attacks for the hopes of getting some money from a company to splitting that attack ecosystem into multiple bits and pieces, like we saw in that initial chart, that initial ecosystem. And they are taking these bits and pieces as businesses. They're taking them out of the flow and each of them that are experts in one of the niches are actually achieving that niche and selling it further to other people, and that's a huge problem right now. Okay, exactly, chopping it up into parts. Exactly, that's the perfect definition. So guys, this is a concern, right? Initial access brokers, but let's also look at another concern. Let's look at malware-free attacks this time. So this is, by the way, as a source from CrowdStrike's latest yearly threat report, which is interesting. So they have found in all the attacks that they have noticed throughout the years that there was an increase, as you can see, in malware-free attacks. So they don't put malware on your computer anymore for nothing until they get to the final stages of the attack, right? So what do you guys think? And this is, again, somebody will win a license here, the lucky guesser. What percent do I have over here in the last bucket, in the 2022 bucket? 77%. I'm having just a few people respond. Okay, 87, 85%, 82%. Thank you, guys. Yes, it is the same as signatureless attack. We have somebody asking. 90%, 120, 110. So let's see. Closest is, I believe, 77. Again, the same person won 2 times in a row. It's actually 71%, guys. So 71% of the attacks that these guys analyzed were not coming through files that have signatures, right? So they were just coming in, hollowing out code in legitimate processes and leveraging those processes that are trusted by your EDR system. Okay, let's see. Yeah, super funny comments in the chat, guys. I cannot read all of them out loud, but super funny. Thank you for all the activity there. So guys, since we are warmed up with guessing stuff, let's see. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna have you guys guess 3 major cases in the world that were related to. Just a second, please. My computer says it's gonna reboot for some updates. I don't think it's gonna do that. In case anything happens, guys, I'll reach back in 1 moment from another computer. I don't know what's going on today. So let's continue, and hopefully it will not reboot on me. So once upon a time in September 2019, we had a major company got breached, right, via a classical email hack. And somebody again in the chat says that I was hacked today. I don't know, guys, it may be, but I don't think it's actually that. So guys, getting back to the game, a company got breached by a classical email hack, which led to credential theft, which in turn landed the attacker with a premium position in the network. Then they remained hidden. Later on, continuing the path, 1 month later, the attacker tested their hack in a stealthy way. They performed a proof of concept on the actual victim's network without being detected. Next, 4 months into the attack, the attacker compromises the victim's software, injecting malicious code without being detected. And guys, by the way, you can guess which was this hack in the meanwhile. 5 months later, in March 2020, the victim unknowingly releases a mass update towards all their customers using their product with the infected code. So guys, does this sound familiar, this major hack? Let's see, SolarWinds, exactly, SolarWinds is the winner. So guys, SolarWinds was a major, was actually the first one, the first cyber attack, supply chain cyber attack that happened in the world. And we have somebody coming in with another similar attack that happened recently. John, yeah, that's also another one that has this particular niche, right? So guys, when something like this happens, imagine you were in the victim's shoes, right? What could have you done? What can you do when something like this happens? It's literally, you trust this software. This is part of your infrastructure. This is how you do your business with this software. When you do trust something like this, how can you fend off an attack like this? This is super, super interesting. And it's interesting because it's happening again and again and again and again. And we need to be prepared for when this happens. Now let's go to the next one. Again, I'll have you guys help me out with this one so that we can guess it together. So the next attack says something like this. Once upon a time in November 2021, a cloud security service company discovers a vulnerability and issues a warning. Good. After this, 1 month, 1 month later, the world still ignores the vulnerability while attackers start using it and they hack the Minecraft game. I don't know if you guys heard of this, but this might actually help you. And we have somebody guessing it. So guys, let's just fast forward through it. Maybe somebody else guesses it as well. Same month, December 2021, CVE gets disclosed, multiple warnings issued immediately from multiple authorities. Multiple other vulnerabilities get unearthed in the same item, and multiple patches get released. This is a global fever by this moment. So I have only one person that guessed it. Nobody else wants to win this license? Then the last part, 1 year later, December 2022, right? Vulnerability was still exploited. 1 year and a half later, July 2013, it's still exploited. So guys, I'll just give you, yes, we have two people winning, John and Jean, log4j guys. So guys, when this happened, this was literally an exploit that was affecting all the products, all the software products that had this particular library, this logging library. So it was a global fever. Again, how could we fend off something like this? If this happens immediately, what do we do, right? This is basically the 5 controls that we're going to talk about. And I just want us to think about it right now. How could we stop such a massive attack from happening if we are exposed? What are the controls that we need? And again, Jean and John won this one. And the last one, so that we get to the controls. Once upon a time, not too long ago, this is happening as we speak, end of May 2023, zero-day vulnerability gets exploited. Then immediately after just a few days, right? Basically still May, CVE gets released, right? Everybody knows about it. This starts to be leveraged as a supply chain attack. And then a few days later in June, software vendor releases patch and people start patching, or do they start patching? A month later, July 2023, supply chain attack victims count to 152. And these guys got ransomware. Does this sound familiar to you guys? Let's see. We have somebody saying Microsoft. It's not Microsoft. Did Microsoft get a supply chain attack recently? And we have John winning again with MoveIt. Guys, MoveIt, a platform for transferring files, right, and data, recently started to be exploited with a zero-day vulnerability. This was a massive attack that unearthed some vulnerabilities that were there for a long time. About a few patches have been released for this already. However, right now, the US government, after this particular event, placed a bounty of $10 million for any information that leads to the capture of the Clop ransomware gang, which are exploiting this. So it was a massive blow in just 15 days or something like that, 20 days. And people are still getting hit by this. How? If you guys are using MoveIt, right? If anybody on the world is using MoveIt, since the moment this has made the headlines, this is not just a forum or a Reddit thread, this is the headlines, right? Everybody's talking about it. In that moment, you literally need to start the mitigation process. So John, again, you are the winner with MoveIt. Now, guys, we talked about these 3 cases. We have unearthed together some of the problems that might occur from this. So let's see what are the problems that we can take from these. Let's make a list of problems and let's see what controls do we need so that we can mitigate these problems. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, because this is the most dangerous and the one that we're all fearing. supply chain cyber attack. Now, do we all agree that this is the biggest issue that we've seen so far with software? Let's see a yes or a no in the chat. And we have people voting in yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Nobody says no, which is normal. So guys, this is literally the biggest risk. Everybody agrees in the session. Thank you for that. Second biggest risk, zero-day exploit, right? Because as mature or as robust as your patching is, until a patch is released so that we can apply certain patch to certain software with vulnerability, you are exposed to the 0 day. So this is the second biggest risk that we're going to talk about today. Then we have regular exploits, right? Even if vulnerability was used as a 0 day, it got the official patch release. That doesn't mean that that people will actually patch in time, right? It's their choice. The vendor does its responsibility and the people then decide what they do. But this is also a big concern, right? Another concern is malware, right? Because malware is software. Malware is malicious software. So this is another software concern that we have. We don't want this software on our computers. That's the concern. Then the next one is system tools. By the way, I have the chat over here in case you guys want to say something. And we have Gene saying something super funny, 0 days attacks with LOL style attacks. Then misconfiguration in software is another huge threat. That's again, and I would have loved to put that on the page. Living off the land is another huge concern. So that's another great thing. And also shadow IT is another concern with software, because if we don't know what's on the computers, what our users are using, we are exposed in that particular moment. We don't know if we're compliant. We don't know what angles could actually attack us, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, general IT software and workload. So these are the issues that we're going to discuss massively today, and the controls that will stop them. And living off the land also gets added here under the system tools and malware as a combination. So let's see, let's get these 5 controls and let's see what they can do for us. So we'll keep the list of problems here, and let's introduce the 5 controls together right now. So we're going to use this star as a graphic, and we're going to put in the first control, software estate visibility. What do you guys think this control will eliminate from all this list of problems? Let's see. This is being able to see all software that lives on your endpoints. It doesn't matter if it's a server, a computer, whatever. Okay, a few votes coming in. Malware, 0 days, shadow IT, exactly. And general IT software workload, right? Because if you can see software that's installed, that's another part of the general workload. Then another key control that we always need to have is literally the basic one, operational controls, such as install, uninstall, right, rollback, and so on. And with operational controls, we literally scratch the general IT workload with software. The next one starts to go a bit in the security side. So let's see what this is. Vulnerability management. What do you guys think it will take off? We have Scott saying it, exploit kits. Do you guys agree that vulnerability management will take care of exploit kits? And I have people voting in yes, but do you think that it will also take care of 0-day exploits? This is the big question. Okay. Actually, it just takes care of the exploit kits. We have some people saying no, some people saying yes, because 0-day has no patch already to be applied in the vulnerability management part. So 0-day is still a big concern over here. Let's see the 4th control. The 4th control is being able to view and see what software has executed in your computers. And this takes care of a part of the malware and the part of the system tools, because you see that these are executed, that's a red flag. And you ask yourself, why has this been executed, right? And then you start investigating. However, the last control, software execution control, takes care of the missing part in malware and system tools, because, and we'll go into the definition so that it's clear what these are, each of them, because when you're able to say what software executes on your system, in that moment, you can make sure that nothing aside of what you approve executes. So malware, which is new software, right, gets stopped. What happens with fileless? Somebody asked in the chat. Well, with fileless attacks, when you notice them with your other security layers, right, your telemetry analysis, your advanced threat security. So when you see that, then you stop it with the execution control. And you're actually making me give out too much information from the get-go. What about supply chain cyber attack and zero-day exploit? Do you guys think these controls can stop it, can prevent it? Let's see. People in the chat. Yes, no. What's your opinion? Yes, they can be prevented. No, they cannot be prevented. I love it when we have both opinions. Some of them can be prevented. This is a great answer. This is the answer of a politician. Okay, so guys, they cannot actually be prevented by these controls, but what you can do if you have all of these 5 controls, you can contain them. You cannot prevent them because you cannot stop the victim, right? The software that gets victimized in the supply chain attack. You cannot stop that. You cannot prevent that. That's not your software. So you cannot literally protect them, for them not to be compromised, for them not to compromise you. What you can do is exactly what Julia said. We can reduce the risk. This is what we can do. And in the moment that MoveIt, going back to the example that we saw, in the moment when MoveIt was all over the news, the first thing I do is initially connect to my management console, whatever I'm using. And the first thing I do is make sure that MoveIt in that moment does not run on my systems, no matter what it is. I stop MoveIt from running in my systems. So in that moment, I have contained both the exploit and the cyber supply chain attack. But at the same time, there's also something important. You can prevent these. Go back to the previous webinars, right? Because these are leveraged via what? DNS, right? They are leveraged and they are detected by advanced security, right? This is another important point. So all of that can help you in this. But eliminating them at all is basically impossible. And with these is how fast can we respond and adapt. And let's define over here. And we have Konstantin asking, isn't sandboxing a better solution? Of course, we can use sandboxing, but what do? You do an update in sandbox and you wait how much time until you put it in production. So for example, stop the SolarWinds attack with sandboxing. If you sandbox the update, maybe that attack won't actually start. A lot of things that detect there in a sandbox or a virtual environment, they do not start. So you consider it's okay, and then what do? You push it to production, and then it still happens. So I wouldn't consider sandboxing as a solution. Next, let's see what are these controls. Just a short definition on these. Software estate visibility basically means you need to view, to be able to have a panel to view all the installed software in your organization. If you can get reports, it's a plus. Then operational control literally means you need to remotely manage, which is install, uninstall, and rollback. This is important. You also need to update, but that comes under vulnerability management. Vulnerability management, the next one, it will handle the patching processes. So since the moment that the vendor releases the patch, you need to have a flow, a process, a system, anything, right? But you need to have something, at least something over here that does the job, automatically manual, preferably automatic flows, and regular and granular reports are a plus. And then going into the execution side, visibility over what executes means you are able to track all software executions on the machines. And you should also be able to see which item started this item. That's very important because usually malware is not initialized directly. It has a path that leads up to it. And that path, if you can actually track it, now that's actually where this becomes valuable. And last but not least, I actually like what Gene is saying, multi-layered approach all day long. Exactly. Execution control, guys, because if all hell breaks loose tomorrow, if let's say another software that we all use gets used as a supply chain attack, the first thing that I need to do tomorrow is make sure that that does not execute anymore in my environment. Of course, I will leverage this ability to control which software executes. I will block it. I will also use operational controls to uninstall it. But what if it reinstalls, right? It can happen. Admin rights could have been compromised. They might have living on off the land approaches already built in your computers, in your organization. So these two combined, blocking it in case it ever tries to execute and uninstalling it, you in that moment until all the issue with that particular channel gets resolved, you do not have any worries for your organization or all the organizations that you are helping manage their operations, right? So we talked about 5 controls. Now let's see. Out of all the Heimdal products, these 5 controls are usually achieved with these 2 products: patch and asset management, vulnerability patch and asset management, and application control. So these are the 2 products that I personally will do a very quick tour right now and show you guys the 5 controls, right? Just the 5 controls. So I'll just connect here for a second. Okay, let me check if this changed for you guys. Yeah, you should be seeing my unified threat platform. I'll stop the camera so that we can look at this full screen together, right? And by the way, guys, questions, everything is more than welcome. I love how interactive you guys were today. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so I am now in the Heimdal console. I will not do a full presentation of the Heimdal console. That's for another time. If you guys want to connect, use the webinar survey. Tell me if you want a full demo and we'll do that. But what we'll look at today is just the 5 controls. So let's start. Products. I said I'm going to use 2 products for this: patch and asset management and application control. So let's start with visibility. What does visibility mean for me? It means that I need to have a tab wherever that I can access my assets. And when I do, I need to see all the assets with each of their versions. Somebody said versions earlier in the chat. John, I believe you said versions. Software estate visibility can be used to identify versions affected. And you're right. Let's say that we know, let's say tomorrow, that this particular version of 7-zip is being used right now to encrypt your computers like ransomware, right? So in this moment, what we do is either go stacked or non-stacked and search for all of this for this particular version, right? So 7-zip, and let's do version, right? And I'll find all the 7 zips, right? So I have 9 endpoints, 1 server. I can even look at this from the different angle and see by computers, right? So if I find something that's dangerous, I can then take action, right? We do a quick uninstall or track software licenses and so on and so forth. So this means visibility. Reports should be extracted as a bonus. They are important so that you can do tracking for your compliance, right? You need this for compliance. So this is software visibility, right? And I should be able to see this mass, and I should be able to also see it by computer. It's very important so that I can take just one example, one computer, and that's it. So this is visibility. What about operational controls? So when it comes to operational controls, I need to be able to take one software, right, and either uninstall it, or if I want to and if I need to, I need to be able to install it. So if I take an example, this is my virtual machine. I need to be able to install an application. So I have here install application. So we need to be able to do this remotely, guys, because in today's world, people are going more to more working hybrid or remote. So there's the time of either remoting in somebody's computer, having them on VPN and pushing via I don't know what tools that are dependent on my network. This is long gone. We need something that can push no matter where they are in the world and no matter under what network conditions they are in that particular moment. So now I can choose whatever app I have in my support base over here and just push it remotely to the computer. Now, also very interesting, the rollback capability, because this will come in handy along a lot of times. So the rollback capability, when we look at the Heimdal suite, we will see it clearly under the patching segment, patch and asset management. I'll just load this in 1 second here. Perfect. So whenever we look at a version, let me put just the official supported apps over here. Okay, this takes just 1 second to refresh, and I'll have the versions. Okay, so let's see. Whenever we have a version, we need to have a quick rollback functionality in case anything gets. Let's go back to the supply chain attack, or to move it. Let's say we still need that tool. It is part of our daily operations. What do we do? Well, it's easy. If we know that previous versions were not and are not impacted by this exploit, in that moment, I take that and I just go to a previous version. And when I do this, this will be immediately updated on my computers, depending on my policy syncing, which can be instant, by the way. So it's as easy as that. And this is one of the key controls that you need to have, and not just for security purposes. Let's say some app brings an update. In that particular moment, you need to be able to roll back if that affected your production. Because at the end of the day, the purpose that we have is to have our systems running so that we can do our business operations. So in case anything happens, we need to have this functionality. And this, if you guys have it, you know how big of divine gift it is. It's like an undo button for a software update. And we all love the undo button, right? It was one of the best technology inventions ever made. So this is it with the controls. The next one is vulnerability management. Well, when it comes to vulnerability management, you should be able to, of course, buy your already made inventory, right? We're going back to the assets. You have an inventory, right? You should know what do you do for all of these apps that you have in your systems. What do you do for them to be updated? Now, in this example, and just by using Heimdal, you can see what are the ones that we automatically support and what are the ones that we don't, for which you need a plan to update them. Now, when it comes to this, after this, when it comes to the Heimdal example, we do it automatically. We just do the job and notify you when something has happened, like this. You should also be able to see what is currently vulnerable in your system and so on. But again, even if you do it automatically, even if you do it manually, no matter what you do, you need a process for this, because this is one of the most used attack vectors in the world, vulnerable software, because it's already an entry point in your network without your systems fighting it. That's actually the trick over here. By the way, I see that you guys are pretty silent over here. Nobody has any questions, nothing. Interesting. So this is vulnerability management. Guys, you should be able to see what went on. Just this example, I have 59 updates that happened, and this is the criticality exposure over here. The next part, and we have somebody saying trying to keep up. That's a good one. That's a good one, Colin. So the next part, the third control, I believe it's actually the fourth control that we're going to talk about, is application control. And by application control, I mean being able to fully see what goes on in your environment. And this is how granular this should get. This is loading a big chunk of data because it is catching all of the detections. And if I want, I can clearly hide Microsoft apps so that I don't look at that. And now I can see what's going on. Now, this means visibility, but this is another interesting part. What happens if I do want to stop something like this? It's allowed by default, right? Now, if I am to go in a block by default mode, it means that nothing will run in my systems aside of what I make my due diligence and put on an approved list. And guys, in this particular moment, the majority of threats with malware, with somebody using system tools like Mimikatz, prod-cdump, and all of those other very dangerous things, right? It's literally eliminated. And this is a zero trust approach for this software execution type of style. And with that being said, you can block anything that you wish immediately. And that's a very, very powerful tool to have. Again, blocking everything and sitting in zero trust all the time is time consuming, and that's its disadvantage. But it also has the advantage that zero-day malware will not run on your systems unless it's a supply chain attack. And in that moment, you can literally take out that software that is being used as a supply chain attack from your allowed rules, and you have mitigated, right? You have not mitigated, but contained the threat as we exemplified earlier in the slides. And I have a question coming from Jens. How is the process for adding software to the Heimdal default list? And I believe that you guys are referring to the list of software for patching, right? And I believe that's the list. So whenever it comes to adding new software in this particular list for patching, Heimdal does the following process. It needs to have the request coming from 10,000 computers supported by Heimdal. So we compile the requests all the time. When we have at least 10,000 computers requesting this, in that moment, we do a feasibility analysis, which means, can we find and stay up to date with the vendor's patches? So we need to have a process to see when the vendor has a new patch. Then can we push this silently? Because for just an example, I know we're not just talking about Heimdal patching, but all the patches that you see in this list happen silently. No bothering of the user, no reboots, nothing. So can we push this silently? This is the second question. And can we make sure the settings of the user were not impacted by this? Can we copy the settings? Usually it's possible for most of the apps out there. So when that happens, Heimdal puts it in. And whenever Heimdal wants to release an update for any of these, another important thing that you might want to know is that we have a maximum 4 hours turnaround time in which we take the patch, we scan it for malicious code, we test it for functionality in case anything changed so that we do not all of a sudden interrupt our users, and only then we make it available for updates. So we basically filter it for you guys, both from a functionality perspective, core functionality, silent update, as well as the malware cleaning. And I hope that this particular item answers the question. So this is it. This is the quick tour of the 5 steps. I promised I won't keep you guys too much on it. With that being said, the next webinar is going to be about managed extended detection and response. And this, guys, we will tackle the fact that cybersecurity resources, people that are actually professional in cybersecurity, are getting more and more scarce. And since this is a problem, we need a solution. This managed extended detection and response approach is actually that one of those solutions. I'm not saying it's the only one, but it's one of them. And I will be joined by our lead. So if you guys have questions, if you guys want to, by the way, let me turn camera on. If you guys ever wanted or wondered what a managed detection and response team does and you want to ask them something, this is the webinar that you guys should join. We're also gonna analyze current threatscape as well as current cybersecurity scape. How are people securing themselves in today's world? How many products are they using? How much time do they usually spend by leveraging and using those products, and so on and so forth. So this is the webinar to join. And before we go into the Q&A, usually people say that in a webinar you need one call to action. right? Just one of them. I actually say that our sessions are so cool and so complex that we need 3 call to actions. My first call to action, guys, is join me in our August webinar. I'll have the emails, the details mailed to you immediately after the session. Book a 15-minute chat with me if you want to talk some more about anything that you've seen in the presentation, or even more, not a problem. If it's cybersecurity related, just reach out. And with the post-webinar survey, you have an option to do this, as well as you have my link in the post-webinar email. And last but not least, if you liked the controls and you need the controls, you can book a full demo of what you've seen today. This is, again, available for you guys in the post-webinar survey. So let me know, what other beautiful questions do you guys have that I can answer today? Yes, see. Nobody with questions. Oh, I do have a question. Does this need additional infrastructure? Do you mean like servers and stuff like that? If that is the question, no. You don't need additional infrastructure. This will leverage, and I believe that you're referring to the patching, not to the controlling. Even with the controlling, it's not a problem of additional infrastructure. Everything is stored in the Microsoft Azure cloud, and you can access it with your Heimdal credentials. Okay. I have another question. How does this apply in a risk management framework? Well, basically, in a risk management framework, you go through the main cases that can actually damage your organization, and you put some automatic responses and make sure that you have a plan when it comes to this. This is how I personally define a risk management framework. Well, when you have something like this, you can already tick off a lot of boxes in this particular scenario. Another question: can we block certain versions of applications and some other versions not? Yes, you can. So this is something that you should be able to do with any tool stack. It's key. And we have another question from Rahul coming. If the application does not support silent installation, how can we push it from Heimdal? Now, this is interesting, Rahul. In most of the cases, this will fail because the architecture of the Heimdal patching program, or patching product, is built to be silent. Zero user interruption is one of the key features of the product. So there are some that will work, but will need additional action from your user, which is something that, again, we don't recommend, but you can do it. Our support team can help you. Okay, we have Hernando asking, is there any training for all functions of Heimdal? I believe there is. We can talk after the session. You have my email on the page, guys. So you have my LinkedIn and my email. Please use it. Send me an email, Hernando, and tell me exactly what is the angle that you need it from. Is it a partner angle? Is it a user angle? And I'll connect you to whoever can actually help you. Okay, and we have another question. To what extent can Heimdal provide hardening functionality? Could you please describe what do you mean by hardening functionality? I saw some different definitions out there, and I want to make sure that I respond correctly to this one. So until we wait for this lovely person to expand on what hardening functionality is for him, let's see other questions. Okay, what about Microsoft patching? They have a lot of vulnerabilities. Indeed, Microsoft patching is one of the vulnerability management components, guys. Very important. In vulnerability management, as per the definition that we saw earlier, you need to patch third-party applications and your operating system. And Microsoft is the one that carries all the vulnerabilities. And that's very, very, very important. Okay, so let's see. I do have a few more questions, and until I read those out loud, I want to ask you a question. So out of the controls that we've seen today, which is the control, or which are the controls, you can put multiple answers in this one, that you are currently missing? That's my question. Not the ones that you have, the ones that you're missing. And I'm curious to see what are your votes. Okay, we have somebody asking, can this work and or coexist with Microsoft Intune ecosystem? Well, it can work. It can also send the news of new patches to Intune, right, as an API. But it's basically, it can also do the job. So it's your decision if you want to make it work or not. So somebody is saying we are lacking none of these because we're using Heimdal. That's a good one. Thank you for that one. Okay, so we have a lot of people voting, and I do want to close the vote. I don't want to keep this for too long of a time. Just a second. Let me share the results with you. So we have the majority of people are missing execution control. This is the most powerful one. So yeah. Then 20% and another 20% are missing execution visibility and asset visibility, and just 10% and another 10% are missing operational controls and patching. Guys, do look at patching. Go find something for your patching because it's important. So the next question I have, and I see a few more questions in the chat which I'll get to, is do you think a tool set like the one I just showed you in just a few seconds, do you think that can actually help you within your organization? And the answers are yes, it might, or no, I already have discovered. Okay, lots of people are voting in for yes, and a lot of people are voting in for we got discovered, which is very, very good. I can actually just congratulate you for that. We have Rahul asking, can we block the user to stop upgrade Windows? I mean, only the Windows patches have to be pushed from Heimdal. Well, you can push these through Heimdal, and through GPO, stop the user from being able to switch it off from Heimdal. And our support team can help you with that as well. Good. A lot of people have voted. Thank you for that. I'm closing and sharing the results with you so that everybody can see. 42% said, oh yes, we need controls like this. 25%, it might be, I'm not sure. 33%, we already got this covered. I hope that a few of you guys that have discovered in the 33% have it with Heimdal. If not, I still congratulate you. It's super important to have all of this covered. And now let's pick up some more questions. So let's see what else do we have here. We have people thanking for the session. Thank you guys as well. And the last question, this is a funny one. Can we get a trial of this? Of course you can get a trial. So book a demo session in the post-webinar feedback, right, in the survey. Book a session there and you can get a trial after the demo. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. It's the top of the hour, so I don't want to keep you from your next meetings. Have a nice one and see you in our next webinar. Bye-bye.